Well, good morning. This is Pragmatic Lee again in the Tin Barn. Welcome back. I've got a little project today, a couple little projects I'm simply going to call hand wheels. Uh, Several, I guess it's been nearly a year ago now, I got an opportunity to buy uh, several of these cast iron hand wheels at a real good, what I thought was a real good price. So I bought 3 of them. The project I bought it for, I didn't need but one. Like I say, that's been, I guess, close to a year ago, and I haven't even done that project yet, but I've used another one of them, and I'm going to use this one up today. So maybe I'll get around to the original project before I actually use them all up. But what I used one of these for already, on my lathe, it's not a huge lathe in comparison to what a lot of the guys have out there, but it is considerably larger than what I did have, a little mini lathe from Harbor Freight. What I have now is the Precision Matthews 11-inch by 27 lathe, so it's pretty good size. But this is what it had for the hand wheel on the tailstock. In some pictures I posted in one of the YouTube groups, I'm sorry, one of the Facebook groups, I called a wimpy little hand wheel, and it's it works. It was just, I was constantly afraid I was going to break that off ejecting tools or whatever. Plus I wanted to do a project, so I incorporated one of these hand wheels onto the tailstock of my lathe. All right, I've been real pleased with that project. And the way the hand wheel works on there. As a matter of fact, it's got enough bulk to it now and weight to it that when I'm retracting, I can easily spin the hand wheel and spin around. But now I've got this left over. Nice little hand wheel. So I thought it might be nice to maybe incorporate this. Obviously, I'm never going to throw it away. But on my mill. And this is another inspiration that comes from Chris on his channel, Chris B. He made a larger handle for his Z-axis and did a video on that several months ago. I commented on it at that time that I knew exactly why he was doing it. Those of us that's got a little age on us, get a little arthritis in the hands, it's not easy turning that little bitty wheel. But something a little bigger, what's on the mill now, and how much larger this one is. And on my mill behind it is the RPM chart back there. So I didn't want to cover it up entirely, and with this I can see through that. Now what I want to do in this video as well, just like everybody else, my mill vise has one of these handles. Sloppy fit, always, to me, always seemingly in the way. You try to leave it on, it gets in the way of the Y-axis feed handle. Plus it falls off, hits you on the foot, or hits the floor. You got to bend over to pick it up. I'd love to have one of the ship wheel ones to go on there, but I don't have that, or don't have the material right now to make one, so how about we use one of these? It's kind of bulky, kind of heavy, but that's all the better for tightening down. Now there's a 14mm shaft on the vise itself, and I do not have any way of broaching out a hex. So what I'm going to do, this is a 14mm deep socket. The depth of the socket housing itself in here is just right, almost exactly the same length as on the vise on there. So what we're going to do is bore this out so that this is a press fit into that, and then I'll also put a couple set screws. Before I press this in, I'll mill a couple of flats on two sides of this, 45 to each other, and a couple of set screws to go in there to hold that in. And then as time permits, we'll make a handle to go on here. I don't want it to be real long. I don't want it to stick out too far, so I'm probably just going to use a 3/8. That looks like maybe a 2-inch. and that'll leave me, let's see, that'll leave about 1.75 inch handle out there, which should be fine. If it turns out to be too short, I can always add another handle. So I'm going to get this set up first over on the lathe, and we'll start boring this out. I have the hand wheel mounted in the lathe now, and I just did a quick little pass in there just to clean up any paint that was in it and be sure I had a round surface. I measured that, and it's 0.519 now. The socket that I'll be using, the 14mm socket, outside diameter on that is 0.786, difference being 267. Of course, divided by 2. I've got my DRO set on 0 now, so I need to take about 134 thousandths off of each side. So on the DRO it'll be 134 thousandths. I'm going to take it down to about 130, and then start creeping up on it with the socket. Like I say, I want it to be a nice snug fit. It doesn't have to be pressed, but a nice snug fit, and then we'll put 2 set screws in there. Alright, we got about 25 more thousandths to go. I'm going to set my DRO back, and we're going to try this. Again, we're just going to try creeping up on it. Alright, let's see where we are now. I don't want to blow those chips back up in my headstock, so I'm going to come to this end. Kind of clean that out a little bit that way. Let's see where we are. Seems like every time I get ready to use these telescoping inside devices, they wind up being, my hole winds up being right at the in-between point between two sizes. That was just maxed out, so let's try this one and see if it'll even go in. Telescoping gauges, I couldn't think of the right word. That is saying 765, so we still got a little bit to go. Double check that one more time. $765, and we're wanting 786. So that's 21 thousandths overall to go. So we'll get about 10 thousandths on each side. Alright, that's going to be a press fit. It's starting right here at the edge. See if I can get my gauges back a little deeper in there. That shows 785 right now, so that's a thousandths tight on there, on that inside, which I think should be fine. Of course, before I press it now, I want to make a couple flats on here, and also get this set up for a couple of set screws. So I'll go over to the mill. Alright, our 14mm socket, outside diameter, again I said it was around 786. That closest collet I had for that was I believe that's a 15/16, and had to put a little tape around that to get it snug, but I believe that'll hold good enough to put a flat on. I'm just using the side of the vice jaws as a reference, and I'm going to take let's start about 25 thousandths and just see how that does. Only thing we're looking for here is a flat full of set screws. I'm going to take about 5 more thousandths. Put it on about 30 thousandths. Alright, now let's turn it 45 degrees. I'm sorry, 90 degrees. Alright, now I'll get the hand wheel set up in here, get it as centered as best I can, and we'll drill a couple holes for our set screws. Okay, I brought the camera around to the side a little bit, got the hand wheel in here, but before I proceed on, that was a 13/16, not a 15/16 collet I was using. Now, I do not have a edge finder long enough that'll reach inside here. I've got the wheel set down in the cradle between the between the ways on the vice bed, and I've run a straight rod down and got this centered up here. I think well, I'm sure it's going to be good enough for a couple of set screws. I'm going to be using 1032. I originally said 1024, but the only set screws I had in there were only 3/16 long, and I've got some half-inch one, or 5/16 that I think will work better with this. So I've got a spotting drill in there now. I'm going to give it just a little spot, and then we'll drill out for our set screws. I did mark this too with a Sharpie, as you can see with the red marks there, for corresponding to each side of my, to the two sides of the socket that we just milled off beforehand. I'll probably put this back in the vise to hold it to tap it, but I'm gonna have to get it out from under my out from under the head, the quill, before I can do that. So I don't have any pulley bits, so I just have a reasonable long bit for labor to do it. I can't get long into it. Once it gets started, it's hold it. You look at that way. Alright, something else I just realized I don't have either. I've got the mill table pulled down to the end now, get out from under the headstock, and my tap was not long enough to reach down in there and have the handle on it. So I have managed to get the first one. It was not a pretty sight, but I'm starting out with a small pair of vice grips and doing my best to keep that straight. Get that started in there. And I know I have a set of the real tiny ignition wrenches around here somewhere, but you think I can find them right now? No way. So using this nut buster here, and we'll go on through and tap that. I'm not going to bore you with this whole process because I'm getting about 1/8 of a turn at the time. But I tap that out, then we'll put our socket in and set screws. Well, I told you it wasn't going to be fun to watch. It wasn't going to be pretty. I managed to break my tap off. Of course, not being able to hold it straight. Our friend Bruce Whitman from down in Australia just happens to be in California today at the Stand Summer Bash, but I kind of doubt I can get him up here to do one of his getter outs. So I'm just going to proceed on around. At least there's a little bit of it sticking out. If I can back off just a little more, I should be able to get hold of it with the vice grips. Okay, I was able to get it out. Thankfully, that little piece right there was sticking up. Was able to take the cold chisel and just keep tapping it around enough until I could get hold of it with the vice grips. And it wasn't quite all the way through. I tried to set screw and it wouldn't go. And of course, you got to know that this was the last 1032 tap I had left in the shop. So I took a chance and took this broken piece and ran it through and was able to very carefully get the threads cut the rest of the way through. So it's actually working now. Set screw will go all the way in. But what we want to do next, before we actually put the socket in there, we want to get set up and drill this, and I'm going to drill that for a 3/8 inch to put a handle on there. I have my hand wheel set in the vise now. I've got it flat down on this side and it's just catching on the flange on the other side. But if I can bring you around for just a second, handheld, I'll show you what I'm doing on the other side here. I've got a little machinist jack up under the opposing edge of the hand wheel, leveled it up with a torpedo level, and should be ready now to drill. We're going to put our hole as a 3/8 16. Tell you what, let's put that in the chuck to get it started. Should have done that before I run the table all the way down, but you know. Alright, I have the 3/8/16 tap in there, and I know you don't normally put lube on a cast iron, but I had it in my hand and started just out of force of habit. This is another little something I'll take some inspiration from Chris on, is spanner wrench to put on drill chuck. He's got a video on one that he made, which is very nice, to use to turn a tap or use to turn your chuck. But I think I've got that started in there straight now, so we'll tap it on down. Alright, it's drilled and tapped now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this bolt over in the lathe and round it off, and then I will probably use a slitting saw over here back on the mill to put a slit in it for a screwdriver handle. And I'm going to take just a piece of 3/4 inch aluminum and make a handle for that. I'll show you the end result, but I'm not sure I'm going to video all of that. It's going to be just a matter of rounding this off and then setting up the slit saw over here to put a screwdriver slot in there. We'll see how time permits. Okay, I've got the pieces cleaned up now with a little acetone. First thing we want to do, I'm going to put just a little bit of Loctite in here, just as an extra hold. And we want to be sure we've got this correctly, and we've got our flats corresponding to our set screws. So let's see if it's going to go in. Okay, I'm happy with that. Tighten our set screws down on the flats. Now, this is what our bolt turned out looking like, with a slot in there. And didn't have a bolt. This is the length that I wanted to handle. So to keep this from slipping, I'm going to put Loctite on this as well. Put plenty of Loctite on it, and let this actually set up good before I start using it. Because if there's one thing that's more aggravating than anything else, is to start to turn a hand crank and the handle come off. Alright, this is the sleeve we made handle. As you can see, we got a little bit of a taper on there. Our screw fits down in there nicely. We'll go in with the I want this so it'll still turn on it, but I don't want a lot of slop. Don't want any slop. Alright, I'm happy with that. Alright, we're going to let this set right here and cure a while. And while we work on the other exchange of hand wheels. That'll be a very quick little project, so bear with me. This should have enough time to set to at least put it on there to show you the end result. Alright, this is the cast wheel, hand wheel I was talking about earlier that I put on the tailstock. This is the one that I called the wimpy one. Not much mass to it at all. It is what it is. It's a cast aluminum frame back here, and like I say, I had a chance to get some of these, so I got them. And with this one, it has enough bulk on it that I can give it a spin. Now we're going to take this one and replace the smaller Z-axis one over on the mill. The only thing I did to this one, the only change I had to make was milling a flat on there and drilling and putting a set screw. Use a 1024 for this since I broke my only 1032 tap. So I'm going to swing around now and show you the change over here. Okay, here's the hand wheel for the Z-axis that's on the mill. This is the one we just took off I took off the tailstock of the lathe. You can see considerably bigger. So what we're going to do, one set screw, and as it turns out, shank is the same size between the shaft, the same size between the tailstock and the Z-axis here, so we'll add this one on. Now we've got a much larger radius of turning now, which I prefer. Maybe not for everybody. Now I'll tilt you down just a little bit if I can not stumble over the camera. And here's the hand wheel we just put together earlier for the vise. Of course, I'll continue to have this one close by to use when I'm ready to bear down on something or break it loose. But for those times when I just want to get the vise on out here, get it opened up. I thought it turned out rather well. I may paint it. I've got some more blue paint that matches the Precision Matthews. I don't have anything to match the vise there. But I hope you've enjoyed this little rambling today with exchanging hand wheels between different devices. And I'll see you on the next video.